Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. As Zachary had stated, I am Minerva Salas, and I'm pursuing a 2-year master's degree in management and innovation at Columbia SIPA. And I'm one of the moderators for this exciting event with our special guest, Ambassador Ramón Martínez of the Embassy of Panama in Washington, D.C. About Ambassador Martínez. Ramón Martínez de la Guardia serves as the current ambassador of the Republic of Panama to the United States of America since June 2022. In his role as ambassador, Mr. Martínez has focused on strengthening the bilateral relationship between the United States and Panama, advocating for stronger commercial, political, and cultural ties between both nations. As a distinguished member of the Bloomberg New Economy Trade Council from 2021 to 2022, he coordinated a unique alliance that enabled Panama to host the inaugural Bloomberg New Economy Gateway event in Latin America. Prior to his appointment as ambassador, Mr. Martínez served as the Minister of Commerce and Industry of Panama since July 2019. With a dedicated focus on empowering Panamanian citizens, Mr. Martínez created a commercial intelligence office within the ministry. His term created 7 new free trade agreements, free trade zones, and the establishment of 51 new multinational companies in Panama. Mr. Martínez played a pivotal role in reactivating the economic resurgence of Panama amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. During his term, he has developed the establishment and operation of multinational enterprises that render manufacturing services, created to propel Panama as the ultimate destination for nearshoring. Mr. Martínez earned his law and political science degree from the Santa Maria la Antigua Catholic University in Panama and a Master of Business Law from the University of Minnesota Law School. He completed a Master of Business Administration from Aden Business School and USET Business School of Barcelona. He has over 18 years of expertise in commercial and corporate law, where he guided countless national and international companies spanning an ample commercial portfolio. Columbia SIPA community, let us please welcome Ramón E. Martínez de la Guardia, the ambassador of the Republic of Panama to the United States. Ambassador, welcome Ambassador Martínez to the Columbia SIPA community.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here. Hope everyone is good today.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to have you as our special guest tonight. Ambassador Martínez, we want to know, why is Panama the top choice for businesses expanding their presence in Latin America?
Well, first of all, let me thank you, Minerva, and say hello to all of you. Of course, it's always a pleasure to speak on behalf of my country, and I congratulate each and every one of you for taking the time to listen to the opportunities that Panama provides. I think it reflects great on you that you want to know more about foreign countries, and so like you said in the introduction, I was Minister of Commerce of Panama. It is my passion to promote Panama. So, but aside from that, I'm gonna give you facts, not only my partialized way of looking at Panama. But one thing that stands clear is the stability and the security that Panama presents. It is a beacon of democracy and stability in Latin America. I think for us it's good to have a strong Latin America. And we wish all countries can have the track record that we have had, because that will make a more powerful region. But Panama, for stability and security reasons, have been a platform for investments. Also, the track record, as I said, the proven business environment. We have almost 200 multinational headquarters that have considered of all countries of Latin America to establish their regional headquarters in Panama. So they serve all Latin America from Panama. 200 multinationals. That is a big number when you consider that multinationals have a very strict procedure to take a decision where to establish. We have special economic regimes that are very competitive when it comes to tax incentives, customs, labor incentives, in the sense that it's very easy to take your executives from abroad and incorporate them into Panama. We have a one-stop shop office that basically takes care of every single tramit that you have to do. The air connectivity of Panama is the best air connectivity in Latin America, and that was recognized by the World Economic Forum. It's not that I'm just saying it is. And anyone that has had the opportunity to fly to different countries in Latin America may have had to make a stop in Panama. So Panama is the air hub of the Americas. And of course, we have a maritime platform that is second to none. We have 5 of the 10 most important ports in Latin America, 2 on the Pacific and 3 on the Atlantic. And if you interconnect those with the Panama Canal and the air hub of the Americas, the international airport, you have a very well-positioned country, not only geographically, but also in infrastructure. And we're also a country that has made a public policy in making Panama a carbon negative country. So climate action for us is very important. So sustainable investment is one thing that we're looking to attract. So, I mean, for all these reasons, I think companies and investors have looked into Panama like a safe haven to invest. So I promised you I was going to give you facts. So there you have, Minerva.
Yes, you have given us facts. And speaking of facts, Panama experienced a 15.3% GDP in 2021, despite the COVID pandemic, and a 9% growth in 2022. So what are the contributing factors for Panama's impressive growth?
Well, in addition to those that I've just mentioned, Panama is a very diversified economy. So the sectors that really got going in the pandemic were the logistics ones. And the Panama Canal stayed open 365 days of the year, 24/7. And all the ports in Panama, the same. We also have a construction sector that is very powerful. Tourism took a hit during the worst part of the pandemic, but then in 2021 and 2022, it became like we have to go travel and see Panama. So it was very fortunate to have, like I said, the air connectivity. Is very easy to access Panama. So tourism was good, commerce, construction, logistics, and we have the banking center of Latin America. This financial center is of great importance. So again, that sector was also one that really got going during after the pandemic, and that's why we were able to grow the way that we have. In addition to being a business friendly, to have a business friendly environment, the U.S. dollar as a currency, so you don't have to worry about inflations, deflations, changes in currencies. All of that makes it really simple for investing in Panama. But to have this diversified economy, I think that really was the key to making such a big growth possible in 2021. Like you said, 15%, 2022, 10%, and 2023 numbers are out now, 7%, probably a little bit more, but it's still the best in Latin America. 15, 10, 7. It's hard to keep growing in these numbers, but we have the commitment to do it and to make companies feel good in Panama. And that's the whole thing. When you have trust, you invest.
Exactly. I completely agree. Now, speaking of GDP, Panama has the highest GDP in the region with a total GDP of 76.52 billion US dollars in 2022. It is one of the wealthiest countries in Latin America. Now, how will Panama improve science and innovation to adopt better technologies and enhance the quality of education to improve its GDP?
Well, like I said before, we have a very diversified economy. We're not stopping there. We think that technology, science, and innovation is crucial to keep growing. And so we have a Secretariat of Science, Technology, and Innovation. That secretariat has made a national strategic plan for science, technology, and innovation, and that has the budget from the government to keep going in that sense. We're looking to diversify also in the new technologies. One example that I can give, and this is not a new technology, but it is something that every new technology needs, and it's semiconductors. So we are now introducing Panama as a great platform for the supply chain of semiconductors. And we've seen that having all the eggs in one basket when it comes to semiconductors is not a good idea. Everything needs a microchip, everything. So the United States have realized this, and they want to bring that to America, to the United States, but also have regional partners like Panama to help in the supply chain of semiconductors. That's an industry that also requires a lot of workforce development, and so we have the Technology University of Panama with great trainers. We have signed a memorandum of understanding with Arizona State University to advance the Semiconductor Technology Center in Panama and serve as an innovation hub. So we wanna bring people from all Latin America to Panama to also have this training. But having that ecosystem, the Technological University of Panama, the MOUs with the Arizona State Universities. We have also collaborations with Georgia Tech, Panama. We're working with the little kids with STEM education. So we have a strategy to incorporate innovation, science, and technology very, very early on, but also in the workforce right now. So it's kind of a complete look at how we can incorporate this into our economy matrix, and that way we can continue to grow, because you know, it's you cannot only live on past success. You need to look forward, and that's what we're doing with this.
Exactly. Well, technology is the future, and it's very important to adopt new technologies and also human capital, improving on the human capital to support the technology. And let's move on
Correct.
to now
Correct.
to, yes, and move on to the Panama's Cologne Free Zone. Now, the
Mm-hmm.
Panama Cologne's Free Zone is the largest free trade zone in the Western Hemisphere and second after Hong Kong. How does Panama leverage the Cologne Free Zone to increase foreign investment and imports and its exports?
Well, I've said this before, maybe not here, but I'll say it again. Strategic geographic location. We have, location. The positioning of our free trade zone gives them the possibility of an unparalleled advantage in providing easy access. It's all about access. So the Cologne Free Zone have access to all Caribbean countries and also to Europe. Many companies have used this facility to import and re-export through these facilities. Also, we're logistic hubs. Panama offers a world-class logistics, as I said before, provides state-of-the-art processes. Not only you have to have the location, but you need to be improving your processes so that it reduces cost and transit times for businesses. So that's a continuous work that we're doing. And of course, the incentives and benefits in taxes and in ways that you can basically do your business very easy. So when you have a business-friendly environment, great location, and improving processes, I think that's the key. And it's the second largest free trade zone in the world after Hong Kong. But Hong Kong is the whole Hong Kong is a free zone, so it's kind of unfair there to compare. But second largest, okay, and we're keeping processes improving.
That sounds fantastic. Now, let's go to some unfortunate news, but last year, Panama endured public protests that led to the disruption of the Minetta Panama copper mine project, which was under the ownership of First Quantum Minerals. This copper production was viewed as unconstitutional by the Supreme Court of Justice of Panama, and many Panamanians who peacefully, and I want to reiterate, peacefully protested to cease operations of this controversial project. How did the government of Panama resolve this crisis? And what policies are in place to prevent this from happening again?
Okay. This is a very complex situation and case. It's kind of not. It is unusual. It is one of a kind situation. Why? Because we're talking about mining. Mining in Panama is not a mining country, but in the constitution and in the law, the commerce law and the mining code, it is an industry. Remember that we want to diversify our economy, and mining was part of it. So, but you know that mining is always controversial. This company has been operating in Panama for almost 20 years. But when it was time to renew the contract, the Panamanian people say we don't want mining in Panama. And so it was like I said, it was kind of strange, very unique situation. How did the government resolve it? Like we have done everything in our government, which is constant communication, complete open dialogue. That is the way to resolve the worst protests and the worst situations that you will encounter. You cannot have like a shield and be out of the equation. You have to engage with the people and let them participate. And so that's how we resolve it. How do we keep that from happening again? Mining is going to be controversial unless we have a public dialogue and some sort of a public consultation, and the people of Panama agrees to reopen that mine. We're not gonna go there again, but we need to have the public opinion in favor of going back to mining. Other than that, I think we need to listen to the people. That's what we have done, and that's the best way to proceed. Dialogue, consultation, and then taking actions.
Listening to the people is the utmost importance, and their opinion matters. And I believe that the country made the right decision moving it forward to cease its operations. And I also agree that transparency is very, very important, and to keep that dialogue open. And that will prevent this from probably happening again. So thank you for that information. Let's move on now to sustainable investments.
Mhm.
Now, Panama has sustainable investment with social impact in various fields, such as tourism, digital technology, infrastructure, energy, and food production. So, what are the advantages of Panama as a hub for sustainable investment?
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Okay. So for all investments, we go back to the basics: stability, security, connectivity, geographic position. But you need a country that in their strategy is to attract sustainable investment. You cannot force an investment in sustainable investment when a country is not prepared to give you the tools to succeed. And Panama has made it one of our priorities to have sustainable investment. So you have to account all the benefits that I've been listing to you so far, and add the fact that Panama has a strategy to attract sustainable investments. Not every country in the world, as a matter of fact, very few, I think it's around 6 or 7, are carbon negative. You don't get to be carbon negative unless you really want to have sustainable investments. And sustainable investments at the end of the road has to touch social aspects. So I think, people have realized that Panama is a good place to invest. Oh, and in addition, they have made a strategy for keeping carbon negative. We've last year in the Our Oceans conference that we hosted, we made the commitment to protect 50% of our oceans. So in 50% of the oceans of the territory of Panama, you cannot make a development. It is for conservation only. Those policies are very hard to make for a country, but that's when you have a clear goal, you do it by law. It's not a saying, it's an action that has a legal power. 32% of our land is also protected. That means that we're very serious when we talk about sustainable investments. And add that to the protection, to the security, to the connectivity, to the special economic regimes. We have a country that it is very attractive for sustainable investment.
Well, thank you. Now, we're going to move forward now to climate change. It's a big topic these days. A recent severe drought, which some have connected to climate change, has caused shipping traffic along the Panama Canal to shrink sharply. How would Panama deal with its consequences if this becomes a persistent issue? And would alternative developing shipping and transportation routes from the Pacific to the Atlantic, like those through Nicaragua or Colombia, become a threat to the Panama Canal business? And finally, how is Panama reacting to the potential long-term consequences of a climate change-generated drought in the country?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, Panama received the canal completely in December 1999. So from 2000 to maybe 2015, we've had consistent rain. I want to clarify because this is not, perhaps it's not known. The Panama Canal waterway, the canal works in different ways than other canals. Other canals like the Suez Canal, it is a sea level canal. Those are a sea level canal. Panama it works in locks, so it's different levels. So we need water from 2 artificial lakes to fill the chambers so that water rises to the level of the ocean so that vessels can cross. And that's why fresh water is so important. So I just wanted to, for purposes of education, clarify that. But for the first 15 years, we had really no concerns about raining because Panama is the 5th country that rains the most in the world. But climate change is indeed happening because in the canal basin, we're not receiving as much rain right now. In the rest of the country, yes, but climate change works in these ways. Now, important to clarify that despite of this drought, the Panama Canal has not closed a single day. It has continued operations. We have had to lower the number of transits from 36 that normally you get in a day to 24, which is a big reduction, but there's always coordination and communication with the shipping companies so that they can plan accordingly. Now, we have to believe that these phenomena are going to happen again. I don't know, next year, probably not, but 3 years later, we have to realize that this is going to continue happening, and we have an infrastructure investment already been worked out and in the phases of approval so that we can get water from other places to these artificial lakes that feed the chambers that raises the water level to the level of the ocean. So it is also a very interesting situation, but we are handling in the most professional way. We're not that concerned about other options, like you said, from Nicaragua, Colombia, Mexico. we have to concentrate on our own, the investment that was made in Panama and the level of high professional operation that goes into Panama. I don't think other shipping companies are going to speculate in other ways, in other routes. That's my personal opinion. Not my personal opinion. I talked to this many people, but we have a proven track record of success, and we're doing the necessary investments so that this doesn't happen again. If it happens against the climate situation, we're prepared with infrastructure to get water from other sources. That's the most that we can do. The most that we can do is concentrate on our operation and not necessarily. I mean, of course, we have to have our eyes open for the competition, but we need to provide the best possible service and adapt to the situations that climate change presents you. So just wanted to clarify all of these things, and thank you for the question.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. And it's interesting that you don't find the alternative developing shipping and transportation routes from Nicaragua or Colombia as a threat to the Panama Canal business. I find that quite, and I like that the country's putting a focus on what needs to do, especially to watch the freshwater supply. So thank you for providing that information. So let's move on to migration. More than 500,000 migrants, more than 500,000 migrants crossed the Darien Gap in Panama in 2003, and on their route from South America to Central America and then to the United States. They face great dangers, and many die crossing the Darien. This route crossing is also a major issue for the United States, where many of the migrants seek asylum and/or enter illegally. Can Panama stop this migrant flow? And if it doesn't, can the migrants generate instability in the country as human trafficking gangs may grow and infiltrate Panamanian society? And have some recent joint policy actions with the United States worked or not?
Okay, that's a very complex question, but a good one. So first, like I explained in the prior question, let's just educate ourselves in what is the Darien Gap. Darien is a jungle.
Exactly.
There is no roads in that jungle. Is no one really. No one is supposed to cross that jungle. So I just wanted to start by saying that. But in 2021, we started seeing the numbers of people crossing the Darien Gap just increase in levels that we've never seen before. Because as I said, this is not a route. This is not a place that you're supposed to cross. The bad news is that in 2023, more than 500,000 people crossed the Darien Gap. 25% children. It is a tragedy what's going on in Darien. Since 2020, we started providing shelter, food, medical aid. We were the first country to really invest our own resources in approaching this in a humanitarian way. And we have continued to do that. But the reality is that there's nothing humane about crossing that jungle. And you're right, there is El Clan del Golfo. It's making this one of the sources of income for them. So they are lying to people saying that they are going to help them cross the Darien Gap so that they can go up the way, up to the United States, which is what they want. So what is Panama doing? Like I said, we're treating this in a humanitarian way, but we're also implementing biometrics so that we know who is crossing. If we see that someone has a criminal record, we will try our best to repatriate that or those migrants back to their original countries. It is not easy. If you take into account the amount, the hundreds of thousands of migrants. So there is the majority of the percentage of people that cross, we're not able to do the biometrics because it's just impossible. We're no country I think is prepared unless Panama, which migration does not originate in Panama. We don't migrate. People from Panama do not migrate. So in a sense, we're kind of victims of what's happened, but we're trying to treat it in the best possible way. From several years ago, we said, hey, this is a regional and a shared responsibility. It's not Panama's responsibility to block the jungle. I don't think it's even possible to do it, but so I think it's important for companies to realize that this is a shared responsibility and that we have to coordinate actions. So far, I have to say that there hasn't really been the help necessary to stop this. And I am not going to say that this is only the United States that has to help us. I think we have to do a coalition of countries. Everybody should chip in, contribute, present their resources, because every country will be affected. Security-wise, we have had some problems, but people really just want to cross and go to the United States. So it's not as bad, but it's really something that should not happen. And we need people to really, I mean, countries to really commit in solving the situation. So it's a very complex question, a very complex topic, and there has to be enough political will for all the countries that are in this to really approach this and invest and commit and make a solution out of it. We have next week, I think, a ministerial, it's a meeting of ministers from Panama, Guatemala, Colombia, Costa Rica, and the United States, and we will see what comes out of this. But yeah, it's an unfortunate situation. Of course, economic, the lack of economic opportunities, security issues in countries are going to make migration something that it is there. It's not going to stop by itself. That's why we need this coalition of countries to really have a shared responsibility and coordinate real actions in order to solve the situation.
You made an interesting point that Panamanians don't migrate. Usually the migrants are economic migrants, such as from Mexico, or political migrants, such as from Argentina or Venezuela. And That's just really interesting because many Panamanians, the society is just doing so well that they have no need to migrate. So that's an interesting point that you made. Thank you. Now let's move on to the Panama Canal, what Panama is known for. The Panama Canal facilitates maritime trade with 1,920 connected shipping ports and serves 170 countries worldwide. Currently, Panama has 19 full free trade agreements throughout the Americas, Asia, Europe, and Middle East. How is Panama unlocking opportunities for connectivity and exchange between other countries and markets? And can you explain some of the benefits of the U.S. Panama Trade Promotion Agreement?
Okay. I only have a couple of minutes, so I'm gonna try to answer this in a nutshell. Basically,
Okay.
important. We have the benefit of having the Panama Canal and the ports in the ocean, in the Atlantic and the Pacific, and we have more than 20 free trade agreements. But what's crucial is that we should always identify common goals between the countries that we're partners with. Unless you understand what their needs are and how you can help them, those free trade agreements are gonna be a nice piece of paper. That's important, and people should be aware, and countries should be aware, governments should be aware of that. Also, open communication channels. It's okay to realize what is important to you and what is your priority and how we can complement each other, but we need to have open channels of communication because often you also get into conflicts and controversies. And also, when you identify common causes, you need to invest in joint initiatives in order to make these common goals achievable. When you were reading my bio, when I was Minister of Commerce, I saw these more than 20 free trade agreements, and I say, hey, Panama is really not taking advantage of this. So in addition to having what I just described, which is to identify common goals, to communicate, to have communication channels open, and to invest in joint initiatives, you need to provide that information in a manner that is easy for your exporters and for others, possible investors, to come to Panama and to benefit from the amount of free trade agreements. So I created the intelligence unit, which basically works 365 days a week, 24/7, and is free for everyone that wants to know what opportunities we have with all our partners, and even with all those countries that even we don't have a free trade agreement. But you see there what countries are buying, who are their clients, what are the prices that they're paying for these products that you would be interested in exporting, what's the best way to transport them, which of those have a special tariff that makes it more competitive to, let's say, trade, I don't know, what pineapples to Israel, for example, from Panama. Is it more convenient than from other places? Hey, that information is right there. So technology definitely helps, and this tool, the intelligence commercial unit, it is one thing that we're doing now to benefit from all these free trade agreements, and And with regards to the free trade agreement with the United States, you know, the exchange in trade has grown significantly, but more important than that, investment has increased, because when you have a free trade agreement, you have rules that are at the same level as the Constitution. So it has the force of the Constitution when you have international treaties. And you know, the United States is the #1 investor in Panama by far, and I think the free trade agreement is in part the reason of that. So legal security of investment, knowing the country, knowing that you have a free trade agreement helps with investment, and also it helps in increasing trade. And when you increase trade, you increase the production, because people want to produce more so that they can trade more, and that in turn makes for more employment. So all in all, it's a good positive things that we have with the free trade agreement with the United States and with the 20 other partners, and applying the principles that I explained to you, of understanding each other's goal, having an open channel of communication, and really invest in joint initiatives.
Thank you. Well, Ambassador Ramon Martinez, I know you have to leave early. I want to thank you. We all want to thank you for your time and insights to unlocking Panama's economic potential. So I don't know if you have a minute or two for a few questions, Ambassador Martinez.
I don't have.
Okay, that's fine.
Unless
So,
you're gonna burn in fire, but I will answer that question. But I really have to get going.
okay, so what we'll do is we're going to take some questions and we'll submit it
Okay.
to the embassy, and
Okay,
then we'll
perfect.
respond to everyone with your, with your answers. But again, thank you for your time. It was a wonderful conversation, and I'm sure we all look forward to visiting Panama very soon.
Please do, and thank you, Minerva and Zachary, for making this time. And yeah, let's see what your question are, and we're open here to solve them. Okay, see you around. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Have a good night.